Python has 5 tiny functions that do insane amounts of work for you automatically. Once you learn them, your code becomes cleaner, faster, and way smarter. First one on the list is count. It's a simple way to create a counting generator. All of these functions come from Itertools module, so I have to import the Itertools module. And from Itertools module, I will import every function. Let's say I want my counter to become that counting generator. And this count function comes from Itertools. It has two parameters, the starting number and the step, how much I want to increase from this starting position. And here, if I print next and then counter, because counter is a generator, if I want to move to the next count, I have to use this next function and pass the generator inside. This will print 10. If I call it again, this will print 12. And if I call it again, this will print 14. And you will see that very shortly. 10, 12, and 14 are printed. This function is very useful if you want to create IDs. For example, if you create a plates for your car. This one is very useful in that cases. Next one on the list is compress. Compress filters data based on a separate list of true-false values. In other words, it's a Boolean mask. Let's say I have a list 1 that has values 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I have a list 2 that will act as a mask. And here, if I, let's say, want 1 and 4 from this list 1, at those positions, I will put value true, and at others, I will put value false. And now, if I create a new list, result, let's say, and the result will be a list, but a compressed list, and for that, I will call this compress function from Itertools. First parameter is the list from which you want to get the values, in my case, list 1, and the second one is the Boolean mask, list 2. So now, by printing this result, I will get only values 1 and 4. As you can see, 1 and 4 are printed. Third function on the list is zip longest. As you know, zip function merges two lists or dictionaries or whatever, but it merges them until one runs out of elements. But with zip longest, it will merge until the largest one is emptied. So let's say I have names. One name is David. Other name is, let's say, Alice. And let's say IDs. They need IDs 1, 2, and 3. Now I will have a result that will be equal to a list, and this list will be formed from zip longest function. And here you can pass as many iterables as you want. I will only pass 2. First one will be names, second one IDs, and the third value has to be a fill value or a default value, which will be filled out automatically when one of these lists runs out of elements. So we call that fill value. And in my case, I will give the fill value, let's say 0. And now when I print this, oh, no. Better way to do it is to make this fill value another name, let's say Mark. Because IDs has more elements than the names, and I don't want a third default value to be 0. No, better to write unknown. This one is better. And now when I print result, I expect David and 1, Alice and 2, and unknown and 3. That should be the list of tuple pairs. As you can see, David has an ID 1, Alice has an ID 2, and this unknown has ID 3. Next function is chain. Chain is used to merge as many elements, as many lists as you want, but lazily, which means you will only see them merged when you need. They won't be merged at once to hold your space and to create a very large list. You will see them as merged, but only when you need that. Let's say, again, I have a list 1 that has values 1, 2, and 3, and list 2 that has values 4, 5, and 6. And let's say I want to iterate through both of them at once. For I in range, no, not in range, sorry, chain list 1. This means first the list from one element from the list 1 will come first, and the elements from list 2 will come second. And here you see here star iterables, which means you can pass as many lists as you want. And I will print them one. I will print every element one by one. Print I here. And now when I run this, every element from both lists is printed one after another. So to resume, chain merges as many lists as you want, but lazily, which means it won't actually merge them in one list unless you need that. So if you will only use these first 3 elements, it will actually only use the first list. Once you get to these 3 elements, then it will start using the second list, and so on. And the very last function that I want to show you is accumulate. It's a very interesting function, but for that function, I need to import another module, operator module. Let's say I have a list of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if I have a variable s that will actually sum all these numbers, but in a way, first element will be 1, second element will be 1 plus 2, which is 3, third element will be 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6, fourth element 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, which is 10, and so on. In that case, we use this accumulate function, and we can simply write list to create a list from that. Every single one of these functions creates them lazily. Now accumulate, and here you can pass a list. Why I imported this operator? Because by default, this accumulate function uses operator plus or addition. But you can pass any operator. For example, multiplication, and I can write accumulate numbers, and then the operator will be operator dot multiplication. And how this accumulate works, it actually puts first element to be 1, second element to be 1 times 2, which is 2, third element to be 1 times 2 times 3, which is 6, fourth element to be 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Actually, this M list will be a list of factorials. And if I print S and then print M, you will see that this will print some number and this will print a completely different number. This one here will actually print a factorial of every single element. Let me show you. So the first one is much smaller because we use addition. The second list has much bigger elements because we actually use multiplication. And actually, these values are factorials of those numbers. If you missed my previous video on powerful Itertools function, go watch it next. You will level up even faster. And don't forget to subscribe for more quick Python tips.